Okay, so in the previous video, I showed you the absolute basics of Procreate, plus a little bit about the philosophy behind all digital art, which kind of boils down to, I've got all these amazing brush strokes, how do I control them? So we'll do a little bit more of that here, but in this video, I want to do a simple illustration and show you all about workflow. That's the other key to digital art. There's loads of things you can do, but it's doing them in a certain order. So there's my Procreate icon. Let's load it up and let's create a file for us to work on. The very first thing, a lot of new people go on the forums and say, I don't have enough pixels to do my artwork. How do I get more pixels? Well, you can resize your image, but that's outside the remit of this tutorial. Instead, come up to our plus sign in the top right when we're in the gallery. And this is where people make an honest mistake. They go to screen size, which as you can see is 2732 by 2048. That's not very many pixels if you want to do any fine detail. Let's make life easy. Instead of choosing screen size, which is too small, let's come to A4, which will give us basically more pixels. So tap on that. I'm not doing it portrait. I need this to slide around. So finger and thumb rest on the iPad. Rotate the whole thing around and quick pinch in to zoom to fit. Okay, so for this, I think I will do what I did in the previous video. I will come to my layers panel, tap on that, and I'll come to where it says background color, and I will make the background a little bit less bright. I'll choose a kind of a bluish color, just so it's slightly off-white and a little bit of a tint. So you and I are not going to be completely blinded by a white background. Okay, so let's come to our paintbrush. For this, if I do a quick pinch inwards in the classic library, you've got a choice here. You will have the Procreate library and the classic library, and you may have Procreate library on by default. I would like you to choose the classic library because there are some brushes in there that really do the job that I want to do very well. So choose the classic library. And the first bit of the workflow I want to do is draw a sketch. And for this, I want you to come down to the drawing brush set, and I'm going to choose Little Pine. All right, now let's take a look at my settings. I want to make a few quick brush strokes just to see how thick my line width is. That's about the line width I want when I'm doing sketching. And that is, where am I? About what, 40%? Here's a quick tip for you as well. If I rest my pen on that little notch thing there, which I can slide up and down, can you see the plus sign? Now this is a bit of a faff. Procreate seems to think that you can just go to that little plus sign in the top right and tap on it, but as soon as I start heading towards it with my pencil, that plus sign disappears along with everything else, which is annoying. So tap there, and with your other hand, use any finger, come and press that plus sign. You see when I do that, I get a little notch. That is because you want to vary your brush size, like with this. There you go. Brush so thin it's invisible. Let's try that a little bit wider. Yeah, that's a very thin brush. But I want a brush size which is 40%. I am going to vary the brush size depending upon projects, but I want a definite size that I can keep on coming back to. It kind of helps me define my style, and also it means I'm not guessing with all my brushes what size I want things to be. So, notches there, 40%. As for my color, let's come to the very top right and let's choose a color. I'm going to choose kind of a bluish color, kind of mid-tone. This is just a sketching color. This will not be seen on the final artwork, but for now, what I want to do is start sketching my idea for a kitten. And basically, this is going to be Luna, my cat, doing what she does 10 minutes after I fed her, which is basically begging for food again and making out that no one's ever fed her. And if you are a dog person, you'll be going, what, cats do that? And if you're a cat person, you'll be there going, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. So I'm making rough sketches here. I'm sketching out what I think the head should be. And I think there's going to be some ears going on. Now, cats have a little notch, don't they? That helps sell the idea of it being a cat. I'm working fast. I want to get all my sketch work in. And I'm not going to do any zooming at this stage. I'm just positioning various things, like, say, the body is going to be down here somewhere. And there's going to be the back end of the body there, and there's going to be some kind of a tail around here. I am not going for a big detail here. Paws, yep, they're going to be around here. So that means there's going to be some legs around here. Let's give this cat a bib, a little furry bib. And okay, the eyes. I want them to be round, but not quite round. If you take a look at, say, Disney eyes, generally they're round, but they have a certain shape and one or two corners and whatever. I'm not going to go straight up Disney because, well, copyright for one thing. But what I will do is I'll try and isolate this particular bit because I think this might be the bit you find a little bit difficult. So come up to our layers panel and click on the plus sign and add another layer. Now I can do whatever I want on this layer and it won't affect the sketch I've done so far. So what I'm going to do you remember the assisted drawing? I'll do some of that. So let's draw round like this and hold until I get my ellipse. If I tap where it says ellipse, there are my control points. And I want to try and dock this into place so I get a rough idea of where my eye is. That's a big eye, yeah. If I want a cartoon cat begging for food, that's going to work. Think of Puss in Boots in Shrek. That's the kind of thing I'm going for. I like that. I will come to my pen tool and create the other eye as well. About, say, here. And again, edit ellipse. This eye is going to be smaller because it's on the far side, and I'm going to exaggerate the differences in size between the eyes ever so slightly because it is a cartoon and exaggerating things, well, it's kind of the name of the game. So about there. I'm trying to make sure that the bottom and the top of my eye line up with the general orientation of the head. If you notice, it's tilted off to one side. It's tilted up and towards our right. So the eyes should reflect that. I'd like that. I will make a point of coming back to the layer underneath, and I'm going to carry on drawing, and I'm going to put in little bits of fur around the top. A nose. We need a nose, don't we? And that nose is going to probably overlap the eye, and that's fine. Now for the mouth, it's got to be a sad mouth because no one's ever fed the poor thing and nobody cares. And let's put a little beard underneath, basically the white bits. And while I'm doing that, let's put in some rough fur just underneath, like this. And it's starting to take shape. While I'm in a furry mood, let's put a little bit of fur on top. And maybe let's try refining those ears just a little bit. I think a bit of a bulge at the back, come around like this. And while I'm doing this, let's erase one or two things just to start refining this form so I can just visualize things a little bit more clearly. To do that, well, I can just tap on my eraser and choose the same brush. Or, we discussed this in the previous video, if you have your brush selected and you want to erase with the same brush, just come to the erase icon and rest your finger on, and after 1 second, sure enough, that changes into the erase tool. I want to get rid of one or two bits here. If you come from a traditional background and you know about doing sketches and this makes sense to you, this is one big difference. Do you remember we said in the previous video, when you use the erase tool, any marks you erase are gone for good. There's no ruining of the paper. There's no little bits of stuff remaining. And so pretty soon you start to realize, well, actually, if I like this brush that I'm using, and I do, it's got a nice texture to it, I can just keep on refining what I'm doing and erasing the bits of the sketch that I don't want until eventually I can do a finished drawing all on one layer. So I just wanted to make you aware of that possibility. Now that I have, I will come back and carry on. I'm going to need a little bit of something down here, a little bit of fur just sticking out from the side of the ear. If you look at the classic Tom and Jerry, this is how they do Tom's ears. You get the side of the ear and just a little bit of fur sticking down like this. Now, shall I refine this a little bit? I will be using an inking brush to do the actual fur. Let's take that around so it's a bit bigger. But for now, I'm just getting an idea. I don't want to get bogged down in all the idea of the fur and everything like that because I need to concentrate on the overall form of what I'm doing. Like down here, okay, the paws, let's work out the general shape, And then when I come to ink this in, I can have a little bit of fun concentrating upon the quality of my line rather than worrying about, are the pores too big? Are the pores too small? I'm not sure where the pores go. All that kind of thing. I'm getting there with this. Let's try indicating a little bit of fur around here. And maybe a touch of a leg around here. Oh, I think I want the side of the leg just down here as well. Okay, I'm starting to get my sketch. I quite like it. Now, what about doing those eyes? Because the eyes are the most expressive part of anything that you do. Everybody, when they look at a portrait, it doesn't matter if it's a human or an animal like a kitten or a deep sea aquatic creature. People always look at the eyes first, and they keep on coming back. So let's take a bit of time to get this right. So the eyes are on layer 2. Yes, they are. I'm checking which layer it is by coming to the little check mark, turning it off, turning it on, so now I know that's the right place. And for that, I am going to come to the adjustments. And almost down at the bottom, one of the most useful tools in any digital art program is the liquify tool. I'm set on push. As for my size, well, I can't tell what my size is. So this is going to make life a lot better for you, a lot easier. Come to my wrench icon, and these various items along the top come to preferences. See where it says brush cursor? Turn that on. And now look with Little Pine, if I make it a little bit bigger, can you see that one? Look, let's zoom in. Finger and thumb, pinch outwards. There, can you see that hovering around? That is a preview of my brush. And that is going to make life a lot easier rather than guessing where your brush is. Let's pinch inwards so I can see everything while I'm doing my rough sketch. In general, you want your sketch to be fit to screen, like I've got here, where you can see all the canvas, but the canvas is right to the edges of your iPad screen. Because that helps me with things like proportion. I need to know how big the head is in relation to the body and how big the eyes are. And it's much easier to do that when I can see everything on the screen at once. If you're doing fine detail work, yeah, by all means, zoom in. But we're not at that stage yet. So quick pinch inwards to zoom to fit. Okay, so now where were we? The adjustments, come to our liquify tool. And now, because I turned on the brush cursor, I can see the size of my brush. This is important. In fact, let's show you this briefly. Let's come back to our original layer, which has most of the cat on, then come back again to adjustments. And now, if I pull, can you see that? I can start to drag that fur around. Now, if you're new to digital art, you won't have been able to do this, and it is quite something. It really makes a huge difference to the way you work, especially when you're doing stuff like this, because when you're doing sketching, you need to adjust things a lot. Like the corner of that ear, I think needs to come out a little bit more. Can you see that? It's also useful for sketching, but one thing to bear in mind is, look, if I zoom in on a particular area, let's zoom in on the corner of this ear and make my brush size a bit smaller. If I nudge things around like this, I can really alter the direction of the line and the character of the kitten. But if I push it too far, look at this. Those pixels start to smear and they don't look like that rough sketch anymore. Let's two-finger tap to undo that. So the liquify tool is very, very useful, especially when you're sketching here and you need to alter the shape of things. It is also useful when you're working on an image which has a lot of pixels, because the more pixels you have, the less you're going to get that smearing effect, or the less obvious it's going to be. Now, you can use it in final artwork, but the liquify tool really, I think, shines when you're doing these initial sketches. I'm just refining what I'm doing. And now that I've done that, I'm going to come to my layer at the top and take a look at these eyes. Because round is nice, but a little bit of character in there I think could really help. And by that I mean, if I come to liquify again and I'll make it big. In general, the rule with any liquify tool is make it as big as you can get away with. If you make it very small, like this, you end up doing lots of tiny little movements like this, which doesn't look smooth. So let's undo that a few times. And big as I can reasonably get away with, and I'm going to push the corner of the eyes up a little bit like this. I'm trying to get a pair of big sad eyes like that. And if I do that, I'll push these bits, the other side, down a little bit, so I'm getting that kind of sad, oh poor me, I've never been fed in my entire life. Sorry. I admire my cat's gumption. I mean, she just doesn't let up. I'll move that in a little bit more like this. Okay, let's do this a little bit here. Now, do those eyes look incredibly sad? And yes, that looks better than it did before. I will just push that up a little bit here and a little bit here. Okay, good. So the last thing I want to do is come to my layers panel and choose another layer because I want to draw in the pupils. They're not going to be little tiny cat pupils. Let me show you what I mean. And oh, look at this. Somewhere along the way, I managed to accidentally choose probably, it looks like the background color. So if I tap on that, if you have a larger iPad, you're going to get this at the bottom, the history. And so that's simple for me. I can just tap there. If you don't have that, probably you'll have to zoom in as close as possible and choose the darkest version of that sketch you can get your hands on. I mean, really up close. And you find the darkest shade of that blue that you can find. Rest your finger on the surface of your iPad. Move it around. Can you see the bottom half of that circle stays the same color? That is my current color. But if I go searching here, the top half of that circle will be my new color when I take my finger off the surface of my iPad. And if I do that, yeah, that light blue is my new color. That is very, very useful. It's very useful in the later stages of your artwork because typically when you're laying out your colors, you might rely on a palette. But as the painting progresses and the colors start to mix into each other, you might want a color which is not on your palette, it's been mixed up on your painting and you're thinking, oh, that's nice, I want that. That's great. All you do is you rest your finger on that particular area, lift your finger off, and you've got it. I will come back to my history. That was the color I've been sketching with, and out like this. If you remember, my layer is selected. I'm going to use assisted drawing again. Remember, I did that for the eyes, but I'm going to do a curve like, actually, no, that's a little bit too broad a stroke. And for some reason, I've got maximum size set up. Not a problem. If you remember, we created this little notch, tap on the notch, and that is the size of what I've been using. I will do a curve like this, wait and hold, edit arc. You've not seen this one before. An arc is, well, it's a curve. And I can just move the points around until I get, oh, the poor little thing. There you go. There's one side. Come back to my brush and I'll repeat the same thing again. Come around like this, edit the arc. And I want that arc to match up with what I've done on the other side. So it's just a case of judging this. Maybe come down a little bit like this. Maybe bring that in a little bit. This is just a judgment call. What do you think? About there? Yeah, I think about there. So come back to my layer one because that's got one or two bits of the nose there. Yeah, so yeah, layer one, that's the one I want. Come back to my eraser and I want to get rid of just one or two bits of stray fur just around the top. So I've got a clean sketch, so I'm not thinking about the form of what I'm doing while I'm putting my ink in. And what else do I need? I think I want to zoom in a little bit. I want to look at that nose because it's nearly there, but not quite. Let's see what I can do with it. Needs to be a little bit rounder, I think, like this. Come to my eraser, maybe make it a little bit finer so I can just shave off bits from here. Yeah, that's what I don't like about it. Look, the head's lying in a certain direction, a certain plane. It's lying kind of like this. But my nose is like that. That's not working. I wonder, can I use my liquify tool again, make it nice, small, and can I just jig that shape around a little bit to get more the shape I want? And yes, I can. Again, it's going to smear those pixels a little bit, but I don't care because I've decided for this drawing, I'm not going to work this sketch up. You won't see the final sketch. That's working a little bit better. As I said a little bit earlier on, it is entirely possible for you to just add things and erase things until eventually you get a finished drawing. That bit on the other side of the nose, yeah, it's the layer 2. Let's get rid of some of those. I am getting a sketch, but I'm getting a clean sketch. Now, there's just one or two things I want to do. I want to tilt the head backwards a little bit, but I have the pupils and the eyes on separate layers to the main sketch, but I want the entire head to tilt over just a little bit. So come to layer 3, tap on the icon to get a list of my options. Second from the bottom, it says merge down. If I choose that, the layer I selected gets merged in with the layer below. I'll do it again, merge down, and while I'm here, come on, let's do what I keep on telling people to do. And really, yeah, I get naggy about this. I'm going to name the layer. And now at this point, even with something like a sketch, you might be getting a little bit how we get. I like what I've got, but I want to make more changes to it, and I'm worried I'm going to mess things up. So not a problem. Come to the sketch layer. Rest your finger on and slide to the left. Oh, look at this. It says duplicate, which, as you can see, is a very easy way to strengthen the lines of your sketch. But what I will do is I'll make the layer underneath invisible, and that is now my safety layer. So I can work with confidence on the layer above, knowing that if I completely mess it up, I always have a backup. So for the head, let's come to this icon, the selection icon. I have various different ways of selecting. I want to choose freehand. And so now all I do is I trace around everything that makes up the head and avoiding everything that isn't. Come round until I join up to where I started. That whole area is now selected. You can tell that because it looks clear and all the surroundings have got this rather hypnotic moving line. So now I'm going to come to the next icon to the right, which is our transform icon. And if you remember that little green icon at the top, which is blinking on and off rather annoyingly, I can take that and I can move round a little bit. Let's move this around. I'm using my finger for this. Now that I've done that, and I've tilted the head back, I think the whole thing needs to move to the left slightly because of the physics of the cat. Yes, it's a cartoon cat, but let's try and keep it consistent with what we might see in the real world if the real world was a cartoon. Okay, I'm not making sense here, am I? Tilt it back just slightly and move it backwards as well. Can I get away with a little bit more? I think I can, because I'm a lot taller than Luna is. So if she's going to give me her big, soulful, nobody loves me eyes, she has to tilt her head right back. Poor little thing. I'm happy with that. So I'll come back to my brush. That commits to what I've done. And then I kind of make up the gaps here. Now, this is me touching upon the select and transform tool just very briefly. But again, when you're sketching, this tool, along with the liquify tool, which we saw just earlier, those are your friends. But I think I've done as much as I really want to do. So I'll sign off on this video. You'd be doing me a huge favor by liking the video and maybe subscribing to my channel. And if you're happy with the way I'm explaining things, check out the links below, which offer discounts on my courses, which are top-rated courses, not by me, but the many, many people who have taken them. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.